This episode is presented by Audible. If you're anything like me, romance isn't just a genre, it's a lifestyle. And with Audible's massive romance audiobook collection, there's so much more to imagine when you listen. From slow burns to steamy scenes, to Regency ballrooms, to dragon-filled skies, there is something for every side of you. And if you're new to Audible, your first great love story is totally free. Just sign up for a free 30-day trial at audible.com. So let's dive into this episode where I explore the three corners of the romance universe I'm currently obsessed with, starting with a classic, moving into modern day chemistry, and ending with a touch of magic. Today's episode is basically dedicated to all of my favorite audiobooks, but the first one that we are starting with is not necessarily an audiobook, but a full cast audio adaptation of Pride and Prejudice. And this, I'm going to have you stop what you're doing and go listen to it, because as someone who loves the movie so dearly, I wasn't necessarily nervous for this adaptation. I was so excited as soon as I saw who the cast was and what was going on. I was like, I am ready. But I'm also like, is it going to give me the same vibes as the movie? And I'm here today to tell you that it does. You know, the scenes in the movie where the hand flexing and the music and the tension and the enemies to lovers, I was like, am I going to be able to hear that like I did in the movie? But when obviously I saw they were doing this adaptation, I was like, this is made for me. This adaptation is 4.5 hours of perfection of Pride and Prejudice as a whole. Every single character in the book has a different narrator. There is sound effects, there is rain falling. This is not a spoiler, but if you've seen the movie, you know when Jane goes to visit Mr. Bingley, this happens in the adaptation. And it's also just generally speaking, it paid such a good tribute to the original story and the movie and everything. But in this full cast narration, you can hear the rain. You can hear the voices get closer. You can hear the tea being poured. You can hear them clink their glasses. It was one step up from a movie though, because what I love about books is you are transported into the character's mind. And what I love about movies is you can see the emotion on the screen. But what I found with this full cast audio adaptation was you got the best of both worlds, because while this is just audio and you can't actually see anything, your imagination, at least mine, the entire time is going wild. The visualization is just insane. And then you are also getting the best parts about a book, which is you're able to listen and be inside this character's head, because there were certain points in the book, and obviously we know it's told from Elizabeth Bennet's Lizzy's point of view, but there were certain points in the narration where she has an internal monologue, which, you don't have that in a movie. So to have the movie sound effects and the movie tension while also being transported into Lizzy's brain was so much fun. And overall, just highly recommend this. These characters felt so real and tangible. And as someone who adores the movie, I approve of this one. Now we are jumping over to the modern love, which I feel at my core, I'm a little bit more of a modern love romance reader, mainly Emily Henry audiobooks. I had a working theory that, still might be a thing, that I love Emily Henry's books so much more when they are narrated. Julia Whelan has got to be one of modern day's best rom-com narrators. The way that she brings these characters to life is no other, nothing else I've ever read or listened to before. So I originally read Book Lovers and Beach Read by Emily Henry. Great books. I'm not bashing them into them right now. I just I wasn't able to connect, and whether that was the story or just reading it, I'm not really sure. Then I listened to the audiobook of People We Meet on Vacation, and my world was completely changed. I don't even like a second chance best friends to lovers trope. I didn't when I started it. Now, since I read that book, I'm chasing the next thing that's next audiobook that's going to scratch the itch that People We Meet on Vacation did. But the way that Julia Whelan brought these characters to life was nothing short of incredible. And immediately after finishing that one, this is a little bit like before my thriller era. I think I read these books. Oh no, I read both of these this year, but then I listened to Happy Place by Emily Henry. Just as good. Truthfully, when someone asks me to rank my Emily Henry novels, I don't know. I can't choose one because listening to both Happy Place and People We Meet on Vacation provoked so many different emotions and so much love for both stories. And then because I listened to those by Julia Whelan and there was no other Emily Henry books out, I was like, okay, what else can I read that is by Julia Whelan or that is narrated by her? So then I picked up Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. And transparently, I may have mentioned this on the pod before. I read Abby Jimenez's books like a little bit out of order. Truthfully, not on purpose. I think I picked up Just for the Summer first because it had a stunning cover. And then I read Yours Truly, which is book. So I went from book 3 to book 2. Book 1 is Part of Your World. And again, I picked that up because I saw Julia Whelan was the narrator for it. No notes. Absolutely no notes. Because truthfully, this book has some unlikable characters. I didn't really love Alexis in the book. Like, you kind of hate to love her in a way. I think that's how you phrase the term. But the way that Julia Whelan brought these characters to life made me have a new appreciation for the characters overall and the age gap trope, which in this book, the girl is older than the guy. I like the age gap trope. I can go either way on it. I don't always love an older woman and a younger guy because sometimes the guy can be immature. But in this one, it was just such a beautiful, beautiful love story that Julia Whelan brought to life. So instead of having like auto by authors these days, I have auto listen narrators, which is Julia Whelan. Now we're going to play a little game called Guess What Audiobook is Playing. So my producer Steph is going to play a couple audiobooks. Some of them are going to be ones that I have listened to, ones that I have read. It has to be a book, obviously, that I have consumed in some way, shape, or form. So you can play along if you're listening. And yeah.
Okay, first one.
Okay, I'm ready.
Despite the fact that Alex spent every spare moment of junior year picking up shifts at the library, and thus I spent every spare moment sitting on the floor behind the reference desk eating Twizzlers and teasing him whenever Sarah Torval bashfully drifted by.
I know it. People will meet on vacation.
That's correct.
Okay.
$100 if you get her to leave with you, Doug said, nodding at the redhead sitting at the bar. It was the woman I'd pulled from the ditch half an hour ago. 15 minutes later, she'd walked into the VFW.
Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez.
That's right.
Chapter 54. I stared at Reese. He stared at me. His cheeks were tinged pink with cold.
As soon as I heard chapter 54, A Court of Mist and Fury.
Oh my gosh, that's right.
I don't think any rom-coms go up that high chapter-wise.
True.
And chapter 54 is an iconic chapter.
The scent is growing into more than just a problem. It invades. It swirls. It travels. It sticks to his nose. It concentrates sometimes. They rarely touch. When they did, her wrist accidentally brushed against the front of his shirt, and he found himself tearing off the piece of fabric where her smell was most intense. He slipped it in his pocket, and now carries it everywhere.
Lights Out by Navessa Allen? Wait, hold on. Damn. No, I don't know.
That one's Bride.
Oh my God, this is rough.
The day after I left my reply taped to Jacob's locker, I found an envelope with my name on it stuck to the backside of the supply closet door. Dearest Brianna.
Yours truly, Abby Jimenez.
Yours truly.
Nothing says apology like caffeine and carbohydrates. At least that was what Josh had learned over the course of his lifetime. So when he couldn't sleep, he'd gotten out of bed and driven across town to the best bakery he knew.
The roommate? I think, because Josh. Okay.
I take my time in the movie theater's neon green bathroom. I wash my hands, then wipe down the sink area and wash my hands again. On my way back through the burgundy carpeted arcade in which the bathrooms are tucked, I nearly collide with Wynn.
That's Julia Whelan, and that's Happy Place.
That's right. That's right.
Yep.
I'm sorry, what was that? For every session, there are a lot of silences between Sam and me, because she asks hard questions that I cannot answer and doesn't move on until she has received some kind of reply. I guess it's how therapy works.
Throne of Glass
The Deep End.
by Allie Hazelwood. Damn. Damn.
Something was wrong with Allie. Something was really wrong with her. I paced in front of my computer desk, unable to sit still any longer. She was grabbing her things out of her locker, and to anyone who didn't know her well, she probably seemed fine. But I knew her. At least I knew her expressions. And right now, her face was wooden.
Lights out?
Lights out.
Thank God. Okay. Because I heard computer and I was like, right, stalker. Right.
The past year notwithstanding, he was always comfortable with sex and everything that came with it. He knew what he liked, and he knew how to get it. He was content. Now, he can't remember what satisfaction felt like.
I don't know.
Bride, chapter 17.
I feel like I got more wrong than I did right, but that's okay. Thank you. Continuing on with our modern love favorites is Daisy Jones and the Six. And, you know, there are some books that are made to be listened to, and I think this is one of them. Again, it is full cast narration, and if you've heard of this book or read it or listened to it, you will know like it's in an interview format, which truthfully was a reason like I put off reading or listening to this book for so long, because I was like, how am I supposed to like ingest a book in an interview format? But I recently read Atmosphere, also by Taylor Jenkins Reid, and that was my first Taylor Jenkins Reid book. And that kind of like started this fuel to read more of her books. And I'm obviously in this massive audiobook era this year. And a lot of people, I was like, what's the best audiobook out there? And so many people were like Daisy Jones and the Six, because it's full cast narration and it's so easy to follow in an interview format. Because when you're reading, like you're reading, it is what it is. But when you have different people talking for different parts, it was such a cool way to learn the intricacies of every single character. And this might be a hot take. I'm not really sure how other people feel about the characters themselves, but all of the characters in Daisy Jones and the Six are unlikable. They're all making dumb decisions. They're all making stupid mistakes. It wasn't a difficult read. It was difficult to like support some of these characters at some points. But that said, it was such an impactful story. And while romance is not like the main genre at all in this book, it's very it's very much interwoven into the story in a romantic sense and in a platonic sense between friends, as this like story follows a band in the 1980s. Another one on my modern love list is The Roommate, and this one was very fun. Like if you are looking for a pick-me-up romance audiobook, I'm gonna probably suggest The Roommate to you, especially if you want something like a little bit more on the spicy side. I know spicy scales are very subjective. I would probably give this one a 3 out of 5 on the spice scale. This was it was funny and it was heartwarming. They become roommates. The guy works in the sex industry and the girl is very like innocent, obviously doesn't work in the sex industry. And we kind of go from there, but it was very sex positive in a way that it was bringing down the stereotypes about working in the sex industry, and just like the two it felt like they're fiction, I get it, but it felt like a very real relationship, and it's dual narration, and the guy is narrated by Teddy Hamilton, who, Julia Whelan is my favorite, probably female narrator when it comes to rom-coms, and she's primarily what I listen to, but Teddy Hamilton is also so great to listen to in a dual narration book like this one. If we want to go up a level on the spicy scale, I'm going to recommend you Lights Out by Nevessa Allen. This is spicy, and it's spicy with a golden retriever stalker, if that makes sense. And those who maybe don't find themselves on Book Talk a lot or don't read, like, you're going to be like, what the heck is she talking about? This is not like I wasn't like creeped out by the stalker vibes is what I'm trying to say here. Like, it's like taking care of her creepy. And I wasn't going to mention this, but I'm giving you all the information I have about this book because I personally loved it and I think you should just go read it. The guy is also a TikToker. He does it in a little bit more of like a spicy, steamy sense, I guess, but it doesn't make the book cringy in the slightest. Like, it was still so much fun to listen to. This one is also dual narration and it had me giggling out loud in public. Like, that's how funny this dark romance world that Navessa Allen created is. And Caught Up, also by Navessa Allen, came out earlier this year. So that's pretty much what's next on my to be listened to list. And then I also want to listen to Lily Chu's new audiobook, Rich Girl Summer. Moving on into the world of Romantasy, which I think at my core, I am more of a Romantasy person. That's what I read growing up and that's what I tend to read now. So Throne of Glass changed the trajectory of my entire life. I read this series originally when I was 13. And then I wholeheartedly regret not listening to the entire series as an audiobook, but I actually listened to the prequel as an audiobook, Assassin's Blade, and I was not one of those people. I mean, at the time of reading the series, I didn't know there was like this, and whether or not there was at the time anyways, I didn't know there were so many hot takes about when to read the prequel, but I listened to the prequel after book 5 or 6 maybe. I didn't think there was a huge difference and I still don't to this day, but listening to Assassin's Blade was like nothing short of incredible. Elizabeth Evans goes hands down as probably like my favorite Romantasy narrator. She brought the character to life in this world in a way that I haven't reread Throne of Glass since I was 13. I have now a goal probably this winter when I have a bit more free time and the weather is super crappy in Southern Ontario, but I am going to re-listen to the entire Throne of Glass series. Moving on to like the comfort side of audiobooks, because yes, that is a thing for me. And there is one comfort audiobook. I don't think I've ever re-listened to an audiobook before, except for one. And that is A Court of Mist and Fury. I've read this multiple times. I have now listened to it multiple times. I know the chapters off by heart. It is I know it's Romantasy and it feels weird to call it a feel-good romance or a feel-good Romantasy, but that's what it is to me. I am not like the biggest fan of the first book. I don't think that's a hot take in any way. I think a lot of people struggle with like getting into the first book. My suggestion, listen to it. It's a lot easier to get a grasp on the world overall, especially if you're not like a huge fantasy reader. I find that especially in fantasy, like sometimes your words can get lost on the page. It's much easier to listen. And then it can become your comfort audiobook like it did for me. So A Court of Mist and Fury is, I will be driving and I will put on random chapters of the book. Not random because I'm obviously thinking of them, but it's comforting. After I listened to Caught Up by Navessa Allen, I want to continue listening to Daughter of No Worlds by Chris Broadbent. Again, I tried to read this one and I got a bit confused, so I'm going to listen to it, and that's my plan. Now that I just threw a bunch of incredible audiobook recommendations at you guys, I have some like audiobook burning questions in this lovely clear jar that has been sitting beside me this whole episode that we are going to answer. Which audiobook made you cry? I mean, I feel like a lot of audiobooks just make me cry because I just like am an emotional person these days. But I think the last one to make me actually cry was Happy Place by Emily Henry. What do we have next? All right. What speed do you listen to audiobooks on? 2.5, usually. I mean, sometimes narrators will talk faster or slower than other ones, but I usually find myself in the 2.5 times speed. And I'm proud of it, but I also know people will absolutely judge me for that every time I say it, especially my parents. Next question. What's a book you want a full cast narration for? Ooh. Probably The Selection, which was released a long time ago, but I feel like you could have so much fun with the like Bachelor-esque, like fairy tale vibe to it all. That's a book I would definitely have. Do you re-listen to audiobooks? Not often, unless it's like a comfort audiobook like A Court of Mist and Fury or something like that. If you could only listen to one audiobook for the rest of your life, what would it be? Project Hail Mary. This, I understand, is not a romance audiobook, and this is a romance audiobook episode, but I listened to it earlier this year, transcended my world. I will never listen or read to anything as incredible as that book. I laughed, I cried, I smiled. I recommend it to everyone I run into these days. What is the most unhinged thing you've done while listening to an audiobook? I don't know. I mean, I pretty much listen to an audiobook while I'm doing everyday tasks. Like I'm unloading the dishwasher, I'm listening to an audiobook. I'm driving, I'm listening to, I mean, sometimes I will work like on my computer and have a full audiobook going in the background, and I'm somewhat like somehow still able to multitask and do both. Probably not as like the best way possible, but that's what I do. Follow-up question, do you multitask while listening, or do you just sit and focus? No, I have to be doing something. More often than not, like I'm driving because I usually have like a 2-hour commute into the city, but I don't often just like sit and listen. Sometimes maybe. Which audiobook do you recommend to everyone? Project Hail Mary. But if I had to choose a romance title, probably People We Meet on Vacation or Happy Place by Emily Henry. I just think the stories are incredible. The narration is incredible. Like just like all around, they're feel good, emotional stories that I will love forever. What's the first audiobook you ever listened to? Ooh, that's such a good question. I feel like it has to be Assassin's Blade. I think I listened to that maybe 5 years ago or something at this point. That must have been the first one that like threw me into my love for an audiobook. Do you count audiobooks towards your reading goal? Yes or no? Yes. Obviously, duh. Yes, it counts. Yes, it counts as reading. Yes, it counts for my reading goal. Which audiobook narrator could read your grocery list and you would listen? Ooh. I mean, Julia Whelan, probably. Ray Porter, also incredible. Elizabeth Evans, also a master narrator. Those are probably my like top 3 auto listen to authors or narrators these days. Okay, I think this is the last one. If you could pick any celebrity to narrate your life, who are you choosing? Ooh, celebrity to narrate my life? I mean, the first one that comes to mind is Emma Watson. I mean, I know I'm not English, but I feel like her. Okay, those were definitely a lot easier to answer than guess the audiobooks, but I think we're fine. Audible's romance collection has audiobooks that will satisfy every side of you. Whether you're craving a fling in the city, a royal scandal, or an enemies to lovers showdown in a magical realm, there's a listen waiting. Start listening with a free 30-day trial at audible.com.